So then, hello and welcome to the Austrian Grand Prix here. The second round of the Austrian Grand Prix, I should say. The second round of the Formula Trackstars series of 2021. We currently ride on board as we await the beginning of qualifying with Huso 16, who's going to take us on a guide lap here. First into the fearsome Niki Lauda curve. Of course, there's tarmac runoff there, but that sausage curve on the outside is very unforgiving. Run down the long and not straight. This is technically turn 2, though it doesn't present much of a challenge. On the brakes then into Remus. Surely one of the best overtaking opportunities on of the lap, but also a bottleneck that can often create carnage and chaos in great numbers. Bit more of an old school corner here by virtue of there still being gravel to contend with. We expect to see a few drivers dipping wheels, including Huso. Let's hope he continues with the lap. He doesn't know that he's guiding us around, I don't think. Two fast left-hand sweepers come next. But unfortunately, we have lost our onboard there. Let's give Chef Todd a go. Pick up from the same place and see that he gets around the rest of the lap. As we said, two fast left-hand sweepers. Lots of inviting runoff here, but use too much of it and you get a half-second penalty. We expect to see a few of them during the race. Off into a right-hander, back over the brow of the hill, into Rindt corner. Another very fast turn. Last corner again, such an inviting sausage curve there that can throw you off on the inside. Be careful not to use too much curb on the outside. And that is a lap of the Red Bull Ring, formerly, of course, the A1 ring, and before that, the Auschwitz ring. Such a legendary circuit in the European motorsport community and globally, of course, as well, having often hosted Formula 1 Grand Prix. Very welcome addition to Gran Turismo when it debuted. Will no doubt be a part of GT7, and it is a part of the Formula Trackstars calendar. Round 2 of the season coming up shortly. So then, Mikes 123, or Mix 123, I should probably say. One of the EBM drivers, the Elite Brake and Mechanical crew, entering cars, sponsoring teams, a big part, or sponsoring series, I should say. A big part of the Trackstars community. We thank them as always for their support. Mix of Honda and Toyota powered cars, of course, as is the way with these Super Formula Spec Dallara SF19s. There's Papa AT rocking the Bez Media colours on the side pod of his car. Let us know, of course, as always, that you're tuning in. Great to know who is watching. qualifying underway then. 10 minutes of qualifying for these drivers. SDRT Wiseacre, who joined us a little bit late, that leads us away. So let's see how well practiced he is. A lot of these teams do practice fairly extensively in the week leading up to these events, so I expect Wiseacre to be no different. He's obviously a very competitive driver. At the wheel of the 144 Domino's Dallara. That rolls off the tongue rather nicely. To lay down a marker for qualifying here at the Red Bull Ring. Into T1. Looks like he's pushing fairly hard. You'll have to excuse me, I've just realised that I'm in miles per hour and that does not suit my current audience. My apologies. There you go, much better. So Wiseacre continues on with his lap. And you can see there it's German Dalit, it's racing. Sadly, I'm watching live this week rather than on a delay. Unfortunately, some real-world injuries, fairly minor from what I understand, preventing It's Racing from taking part, but of course the It's Racing esports team still out in full force. Justin 930 joined by perennial super sub Dis Wood. Wiseacre across the line then, a 1:14.5, a 1:12.9 from Justin 930. There's Enspud in the number one, only a 1:14.0 for him. Farrell PS, meanwhile, the Indonesian driver, back with us after missing the Trackstars Touring cars last week. He was also listed along with a reserve for this week, so it's good to see that he did indeed make it out onto circuit. Blacko, there's a driver we can expect great things from. The 97 car, as it says on the above, but it's of course the 14 on the physical number plates of the car. Racing for EBM Motorsport. Good signing there for EBM. Of course, Little Blacko usually a part of the RoboSport operation. Let's see what kind of lap time he can put in. 1:13.555 puts him sixth. Meanwhile, to the very front of the order goes Enspud. So Spud in the Toyota, moving on up. See there the wiggle on that car. That's so easy to have a snappy moment like that in these high torque Formula cars. Turbocharged motors, of course, and over 2 bars worth of boost running through the cars does mean that traction can be at a premium. Morning to Tom Winder, and as he correctly says, good evening to all the others over in Australia. RoboSport saying that Blacko and Mix on loan from RSR, on loan from RoboSport Racing. Truly a very strong talent roster available to the RoboSport guys. Oh, Farrell there, getting it a bit twitchy. Made use of the sausage curve through the Lauda curve, or on the outside of the Lauda curve. Four minutes of the session left to run then. At the moment it's this man, N-Spud, who has set the pace marker at 1:12.820, but JMX less than a tenth off. His rather subtle front end, at least, to that livery, the Pit Lane Esports car. All of the cars here, of course, very well turned out. Let's see what the number 11 can do this time by. Oh, that's going to be a track limits, I think, out of the final corner. But a 1:12.841 is the time. A 1:12.703, however, for Farrell PS, who goes second. Justin 930 has gone to the top as well at 1:12.274. I thought Farrell had done enough to get pole, and he had provisionally, but only just. Maybe 5 seconds later, Justin 930 swoops in and puts the It's Racing Esports entry to the top. Puts the Honda power unit to the top as well. Let's see if Farrell has an imminent response. Also running a Honda powered car, of course. There goes Punts. Punts in the other Mashed Spuds entry. Often providing his backing to the champion of champions, realistically, in Track Stars in 2020. But lately, Punts has looked like the more fancied driver. Just these last couple of events, and sure enough, to pole with a 1:12.105. Will we see the 1:11 barrier challenged before the end of this session? Only 2 minutes left to run. There goes Justin 930, quicker again with a 1:12.204 in the 61 car. Excellent stuff to this point in the session. Times coming down across the board. Justin with a little bit of a weave, a bobble and a shake there. Farrell in the traffic. Not sure this lap's going to be an improvement. We'll follow him for it nonetheless. And let's take a look at Spud. Where is Spud out there? I think he's got a purple first sector by the sounds of it. Let's keep an eye on the defending champ. We don't want to let him through the cracks here. Has he got 7/10 to find? That would be a big ask and a very impressive feat. Lurox there gets out of the way nicely. Ooh, awful wheels off, but that should be okay there. He's down in his own time, so that's not going to be a challenge for pole. Little Blacko improves to a 1:12.984, which puts him up to 7. Let's see what Farrell can do. In the 3 car, oh, he's gone wide. Very gentlemanly, doesn't rejoin in front of JMX. Let's take a look at JMX. We haven't seen much of the Pit Lane Esports driver in the session, but he's been fairly fast out there. 1:12.8 is his best. Let's look at his second sector time, see whether or not he is going to be a danger to move up any further. Just 600s up, but that could be all it takes as Punts goes to the pole. Punts still with a chance to do another lap, and a 1:12.018. Let's see if anyone can challenge that. Here comes Justin. just unable to beat his best there by 0.02 of a second. Farrell PS holds on to third. Can Lurox do anything from the fourth position? The 22 car. Another of these Dallara Hondas. Doesn't look like the quickest run through Rint. Let's see what the lap time is. It's a 1:21.686. So that time was not up to code. Is there anyone else left to set a time? There's Papa AT across. A 1:13.258. Puntz crosses the line once again. Doesn't improve, but nor does he need to. SDRT Wiseacre. Oh, he's spun it there. Looks like he's just having a bit of fun, to be honest, but quite a spectacular thing to cut to nonetheless. So then we now go racing for the second round of the Formula Track Stars season. The Austrian GP live here on the YouTube channel. Thank you so much for joining us. If you haven't already, do subscribe to the channel for more racing action. Puntz and Diswood at the front of the order. Diswood there must have claimed that honour fairly late on. 46 laps of racing, 3 compounds of tyre to use. They must use them for a dozen laps each across the duration of the race. We're underway then, and it's Puntz who leads the field up towards the Lauda curve for the first time. Does everybody get through cleanly? It looks as though they have, although plenty of them end up running it wide. One car further back down the order. Not sure who that is that's dropped back, but nonetheless, Justin 930 looks to the inside, but Lurox looks to the inside of him. They're 3 wide through Remus. That's never a recipe for the tastiest cake, but it wasn't a recipe for disaster on that occasion at least. Puntz holds on to the lead. Justin 930 though still on his inside. Again, deep onto the brakes, down to first gear even. Very brave in these high turbo powered cars. But Puntz holds on to it. Holds on to his position at the front of the order. Justin 930 I think may have got a slight nibble on the rear there from Lurox 22. Either that or he just missed the apex of his own accord. Dropping down the field a little bit though is Diswood, the perennial super sub of the Track Stars series in its various incarnations. Into 5th place in the It's Racing Esports number 95. However, that does of course mean that he's helping It's Racing have 2 cars in the top 5, so that will be more than enough for the pit crew there for the green and white car. Realised that it was Robosport, of course, in the safety car who would have been dropped off the field there, although Chef Todd has also fallen away from the field a little bit in the early going, so not sure what's happened to him to this point in the race. Puntz there just running a little bit wide, but that's not going to be a concern for him. So again, a reminder that super softs, softs and medium tyres are compulsory in this race and must be used for a dozen laps each. We can see there that Puntz is on his softs. Justin 930, meanwhile, is on the super softs. So, theoretically speaking, one would expect Justin to move up the order, and a good spot there from Jarman in the comments section. Woods starting on the mediums, so that is partially the explanation for him dropping through the order. You can expect to see him pile through the pack later on. in theory. It's been a good idea to get the harder compound out of the way early. You see plenty of that here on GT Sport in the FIAs. Top four, rather spread at the moment. Let's go further back in the field, where things are currently a little tighter and more intense. Papa AT has made it through into 6th place. Diswood, meanwhile, running those mediums. It's JMX on behind him. He's on the softs. It looks like he's carrying a little bit of damage, at least on my screen, so maybe there was a little more contact than we thought on the first lap. Little Blacko down there in 9th. Also with some contact, or some damage, according to my screen, and that's to the rear of the car. So I wonder if there's any connection between the two. SX pointed in the 24, running solidly within the top 10 at the moment for the Pit Lane Esports team. See how he progresses through the field. He's on the soft tyres at the moment. Looks like they've already had some wear to the rear, so maybe struggling with traction out of some of the corners here. So 46 laps of racing scheduled here today at the Red Bull Ring. And in many instances, these Formula Track Stars races develop into high-speed chess of the highest order with the different tyre strategies. Which tyre do you run longer? I'd be inclined to do the softs. Good combination of speed and slightly better wear than the supers. Has their own strategy, their own take. It makes racing very interesting to observe. Justin just shooting a little bit wide, but that allows him a slightly better run. Almost that little straight between the two left-handers. Oh, Diswood disconnecting. Diswood has left the room. That is unfortunate news for the It's Racing Esports crew. Just 5 laps in, and they've lost their super sub. It's going to be drama. Justin 930 now has all the pressure on his shoulders to deliver a performance here. Big shame. Diswood has rejoined. JMX runs in 7th place, and then there's a big pack fighting for 8th. It's little Blacko looking for the inside of Huzo. Huzo left him room there, but Blacko thought better of it. Mix 1, 2, 3 behind him. The 4 running in 8th at the moment. SDRT Wiseacre, the former likely Wiseacre, running just behind this pack in P12 at the moment. Pointed, looking to get back into the top 10 at the expense of Mix, I should say. Little Blacko though, with a track limits pen. Oh, a lot of cross up there from both drivers. And they've now got to worry about little Blacko, who is one of the more decorated drivers in recent Track Stars history, at least in the touring cars. who's now going to be coming up behind them after that track limits pen. Lap 7 of 46 then. The Austrian Grand Prix, and it is the Mash Spuds Racing. Number 47 car, Puntz, who leads the way. The other Mash Spuds car, of course, in 4th. N-Spud P666. Potentially a good scoring round for the Spuds as it stands, but there's a long way to go here in Austria. Of course, the Red Bull Ring. Quite a good circuit for racing. We've seen many a great dice here in recent years in the MotoGP and the DTM, and there have been some signature moments in the Austrian Formula 1 Grand Prix as well. Within track stars, we saw some excellent racing in the rain with the touring cars in the past. And certainly a welcome fixture to Gran Turismo. There are ongoing discussions, rumours and hearsay about the circuit's future in regards to the old layout. The old layout is still more or less intact. The old loop used to continue straight on where the first corner, the Niki Lauda curve is. It used to be much more high speed and sweeping. They have built in a chicane just on the after the barriers there in recent years. There have often been talks of maybe reviving the old circuit. Whether or not Dieter Meisterschitz, the runner or the owner of this circuit, the owner of the Red Bull brand, whether he puts that money forward to do it remains to be seen. There is often talk of having the old Auschwitzring layout back. We'll see whether or not that comes to fruition in years to come, and if it does, let's hope that it's in Gran Turismo 7. Or potentially by the time such work is complete, it'll be Gran Turismo 8 or Sport 2 or Electric Boogaloo or something like that, but it'd be very good to see it in a future Gran Turismo. Farrell PS up to 4th position then. Spud has let go of that place. Spud, another driver running on the mediums early on, so it's to be expected that his pace isn't quite with the front runners. Down to 5th spot at the moment, Paparetti behind him. Has rejoined some of the battles further back. Huso has just slightly gapped DJSX Pointed, who's now past Mix. So Pointed running through the pack. Up to P9 at the moment, just set his fastest lap of the race of 1:15.270, and he's yet to touch his overtake boost. By the looks of it, he's maybe used just a nibble on reflection, but not much usage thus far. Some drivers already eating into it fairly significantly. With a good run out of this corner, Pointed could be on for a move into Remus. Right up in the draft of Huso, pulls out, looks to the inside into turn 2, into turn 3. They butt wheels there. Pointed not quite able to get the traction out of the corner. Into the slipstream he goes. Pulls back out now. Gotta make sure he leaves enough room on the outside for Huso, and he does just, but Huso there squeezed onto the curbing there. You have to be so careful in these cars when you're on the slippery curbs. Here is our leader then. Heading on board with the Mash Spuds entry into Remus for the 11th time, and just the snap there. Again, we've already shown you this once, but we'll do it again. It's so easy to do. Power down a fraction too early. Of course, that takes some life out of the tyres as well. I'm assuming he's going to go for a long stint in these softs off of previous form. End the replay, please. Thank you. So Justin has never been more than 1.5 seconds off Punts so far in the race. He is on the softer compound of tyre, of course. As you can see, they're already starting to wear out a little more. Regardless of compounds, it's great that Justin is managing to hold on to Punts. Could make things very interesting in the later going, especially with the fast drivers we expect to see through the order on their softer tyres later, the likes of Spud on mediums. DJSX pointed up to P8. That means that Huso has dropped down further. He's now having to fight off for 9th place. Mix 1, 2, 3. So there's been an incident somewhere for Huso by the looks of it. Mix to the inside. So then, dropping down the order just a little bit. Surprised to see Little Blacko only down in 11th place, especially given the super soft tyres. He is a touring car specialist. We'll see whether or not he settles in to the Dallara a little more as the race goes on. So lap 13 of the race. So those who have been on tyres for a while could now get off of the tyres they're on if they wanted to. Looks like Chef Todd has made that decision, rejoins the race, and does so just in front of our leader. We'll have to get out of the throttle here. And does so. Place to be on cold tyres between the two leading cars in the race. But Todd doing a good job here of staying out of trouble. We'll now lift off, I think, on the approach to the braking zone there. Does so, just in 9:30 through cleanly. Lurox and Farrell, of course, 3rd and 4th place, both representing the Robo Sport crew. Looks like it's going to be between Robo Sport and Mashed Spuds in regards to which team benefits the most in the points. Of course, just in 9:30 now, a solo act in 2nd place for the It's Racing outfit. So things fairly spread out at the moment, out on circuit. However, crescendos aplenty will be expected as the teams move tyre compounds. As the race wears on, these drivers that are currently the hares of the situation, the likes of Punts, the likes of Justin 9:30, will find themselves under renewed pressure from drivers like this man, Spud, as the race wears. 20 seconds off at the moment, the number 1 car, 15 laps deep on the mediums, so he's running them longer than he needs to. just the 12 laps required, but obviously he doesn't want to run any tyre too warm later on as well. That is an element to consider. Maybe tempting to just ditch the hardest compound after the 12 laps minimum running. I think Spud is looking at it from a slightly longer lens. Papa AT is closing in on him in 6th position. Number 4 car running well to this point in the race. You see they're quite brave on the sausage curb. You see some drivers move heaven and earth to avoid that sausage curb. Huso is in. So coming off the super soft tyres, of course, there's this elongated pit stop to consider as well. Recently implemented in the most recent GT Sport update. Comes out on the medium tyres, so we can expect Huso to be slightly off pace this stint. For company, he's going to have Little Blacko also on the mediums, so a pair of drivers there getting their shift on the hardest compound out of the way now. And they come out only just ahead of Justin and our race leader, Punts. Evenly matched they are in terms of 1 lap pace. A 1:13.441, the quickest lap so far from Punts. Justin 9:30, a 1:13.4. Our championship defending driver, the defending champion of Formula Track Stars, the number 1, N-Spud, into the pits for the first time and onto the softs. So he's going to go faster and faster as the race wears on. He's got the super softs tucked into his back pocket. Expecting him to run fairly long now on these soft compound tyres. Expect to see him in 12 laps from home now to run the super softs, one would think. Justin 9:30 also into pit lane. So our second place runner is going to make his first pit stop of the day. New Bridgestone's on the It's Racing entry and comes back out in 4th place on the medium tyres. So some of them going slightly different ways with it. Lurox has also got onto the mediums and rejoins the race just behind Pointed. He's of course on slightly aged soft tyres at this stage. Good opportunity to see how fresh tyres help a driver even if they're on a harder compound. Let's see how these two match up in the next lap or so. Pointed in the 24 car. And Lurox, of course, in his signature number 22. And on board with Lurox as they go through Rint Curve. Running the very edges of what you can do on track limits here. Oh, little bit shaky there through Lauder. Such a edge of your seat corner in these cars it's not as good of an overtaking opportunity as in, say, the touring cars, owing to the higher corner speeds, but it's still very doable if you have the slip. But it is the second and third braking zones of the lap that seem like the best opportunities, at least from this vantage point. Let's take a look at Punts then. His pit crew are waiting the Mash Spuds entry. There it is. Medium tyres on to the car. Critically, Justin 930 a ways down the road. So it looks like that's been a net gain for Punts with those extra couple of laps on the softs. Papa AT, of course, yet to pit, but running third at the moment, running it deep on the supers. Almost half distance. Of course, he'll have to pit in soon, as he has to run 12 laps on the other tyres. So if he doesn't pit in for lap 22, he will be in trouble. Justin there, almost running it a bit wide. He can get a half-second penalty up that curb as well. Another race leader in, it's Farrell. He's going to come out behind this man, Punt, behind Justin as well, you'd think. Papa has come in, as has Farrell, so, and Pointed as well, so most of the remaining people that are yet to pit have relented to the inevitable. Back out onto circuit comes Farrell. He's going to come out comfortably in fifth. Now I'm interested to see where the likes of Pointed and Papa come out relative to this man JMX. They were a little way behind earlier on. I can see one of them coming out onto circuit. That will be Papa, who was ahead of him before. So it looks like all has stayed stalemate there at least. Pointed comes out a little way, about 5-6 seconds down the road in the other Pit Lane Esports entry. And he now has a fair cushion over Mix and Blacko, running 9th and 10th. Of course, they were in fisticuffs earlier on, along with Huso. It looks as though Pointed has moved himself away from that fight a bit. Huso there in 11th, a little way back from Blacko. There's Wiseacre in 12th place, a lap down already in the 144. Oh, and Chef Toad there, almost finding himself in the way of Punts. That was a bit of a heart and mouth moment. Looks like there's some battling going on in the 4th place region. It's Farrell and Spud. Of course, Farrell is on the medium tyres, Spud is on the softs. Is he going to make a move into T3, into Remus? He does so. Easy done. With those softer tyres, and Farrell can really only settle behind the Mash Spuds Racing entry and watch him disappear. There's no commentary on the driving abilities of Farrell. It's just a simple fact of the tyres. Of course, we saw Farrell overtake Spud. Well, Spud was on the mediums, so a little bit of full circle racing there between the two of them. I believe Farrell started on the supers, so I think he only has the softs left to run. To move up the order for Spud, who has already set the fastest lap of the race, 13.163. So since he's been on the softer tyres, he's been finding pace. And critically, he's also been gaining on the leader. Of course, he was over 20 seconds back at the pit stop. He's now down to 16.6 away from Punts. So the race coming to Spud. And so potentially is third place, because if we look just a ways ahead, there is Lurox 22. Spud gradually picking off the medium shod RoboSport entries as the Austrian Grand Prix continues. Just over half distance in the Formula Trackstars Austrian Grand Prix. And we continue to watch Lurox 22 running third place at the moment behind Punts for Mash Spud's Racing. The It's Racing Esports sole entry at this point, with Diswood's early retirement owing to internet issues. First, the RoboSport cars in third, so 3 teams in the top 3, but Mash Spud's Racing could be about to take 2 of the top 3 places, owing to this man, defending champion N-Spud P666, who's on the hunt. He has just gone quite wide there. Will the game grant him mercy, or will he get a pen? Looks like the game has granted him mercy. Must have been right on the edge. Spud, of course, who ran the mediums earlier on, picking away at the cars that are running them now. Chief among them is, of course, Lurox 22. Let's check in on the leaders just to see the gap. Punts still there, 2.1 seconds clear of Justin. Both of those cars also on the mediums, of course, so this is a critical phase of the race for this man, Spud, who will not want to stay behind Lurox for too long. Where will the move be made? He's very close behind the RoboSport entry. He's looking to the outside, inside, any which way he can, going through Rint. It would be a brave place to make a move. Thinks better of it if the thought even ran through his mind at all. Always run it wide there. And he's got a penalty for his troubles. He's still going for the move on the approach to Lauda. But he's going to have to peel the pen away, and I believe he's going to do it here. If memory serves correctly, this is a place where one can do that, and he does so. So immediately has to drop the position back. There are mandated areas of the circuit where you can peel off a penalty. And you have to do it post-haste once you get one. Unfortunately, Spud's work undone in record time there. That effectively costs him a lap of the race, of course, because he's got past Lurox and has now found himself in the exact same position as he was in a lap ago. Not only has it cost him a lap of the race, but it's cost him a lap of this critical phase of it, where he's on the softer compound than Punts and Justin. He's only found about a second on Punts in the last few laps. And Lurox there, I think, got himself a penalty, and Spud almost crashed into the back of him there. It's a little bit of an anti-climax there, but Spud through into third place nonetheless. Lurox having to withdraw from the battle to serve a penalty. Just looking through the rest of the order. Nixon Blacko continuing to run the Elite Brake and Mechanical backed Honda Delaras. Both drivers, as RoboSport was keen to mention, both drivers on loan from the RoboSport racing operation. Nix may have just got himself a pen, or has he been lucky? I think he might have been lucky as well. Of course, one phase of testing will be finding out where these track limits live. The game is sometimes very lenient and other times not at all. You have to work out when it decides to be one way or the other. 1:14.3 last time by for Spud, who has been, for Punts, who has been fairly consistent on these mediums. In the 14s for the last half dozen or so laps each and every time. Of course, pace will fluctuate slightly as he gets deeper into the race and is the pioneer of the back markers, of course. He's the first one through. Much easier to be in second place as you go through the lap traffic. The back markers introduced the idea that faster cars are coming by the leader's front nose often. I think there are more or less no close battles on the circuit at the moment. Currently slightly spread out. As we said, it goes in phases. And I'm very interested to see how the latter stage of the race develops between these two in particular, Punts and Justin 930. Of course, Justin was on the super softs earlier on, so he's only got the softs left to run. Punts, meanwhile, still has the super softs in his back pocket, so we'll see how their pace is relative to one another on the different compounds in the closing stages. Justin was about able to match Punts while he was on the supers and Punts was on the softs. We know that pace disparity isn't too much between the two compounds. Of course, the softs are slightly less wearing, so we'll see whether or not Punts' tyres struggle towards the end and whether that leaves a window of opportunity for Justin 930. On this lap, Justin has closed in a little bit there, a 14.1. Relative to a 14.4 for Punts. Of course, so many variables, not least of which is where you catch the traffic for the leader. Looks like he's actually taking slightly better care of his mediums at the moment than Justin. But of course, Punts was a little bit later onto the tyres, so Justin has done more laps. Wiseacre there in the chat saying good evening to Spud. I believe that was as he was getting lapped. Spud still setting dynamite laps out there on circuit, 13.094. Just a couple of laps ago. He's now just 11 seconds back from Punts as well, so he is closing in more and more. Justin 930, though, is into pit lane. Expecting him to head on to his softs. Lurox 22 also in. It's a 61 car. Receives what should be its final set of Bridgestones. Away he goes. 91 car. It's Racing Esports. Oh, there's been an incident up ahead. Who is that? Didn't quite catch the number there. It's SDRT Wiseacre. See if we can catch what happened. No. I think it's fairly clear that there was just a little bit of a moment for Domino's backed entry, the Shaden Racing Team car. And I think he's driving around on the pause menu now. He's on some very worn soft tyres. Justin 930 going for the undercut. Says it's Racing Esports' own Jarman Dalitz. It's racing himself. Spud then 10.7 off of his co-driver, his teammate Puntz, the Nash Spuds Racing duo. Of course, Puntz coming into Trackstar's recent history, at the very least, with a very good performance at Bathurst in the Trackstars touring cars, and he's never really looked back from there. Has always been a figure at the front of the order. Spud into the pit lane then, as is Farrell PS. Puntz continues on his way. 28 seconds, the gap between himself and Justin. Justin comfortably in second place. That was never really in doubt, at least for the imminent future. We'll see whether this undercut situation pays dividends for him. We're expecting Puntz in soon. Let's see if it's this time by. I think mathematically it has to be. And sure enough, into the pits he comes. Of course, he will now get onto the super soft tyres. Meanwhile, Justin 930 on a personal best lap of the race. He's pushing it hard. Could be the fastest lap of the race so far. Much lighter fuel loads, of course, at this stage, even though he's on a harder compound than he was at the beginning of the race. And sure enough, a 1:12.834 is our fastest lap of the race to date. Puntz is just exiting pit lane. Mix in 10th place, not a factor, and Puntz is just ahead of Justin 930. It's within a second, so the undercut hasn't quite paid off. But we'll see whether or not Justin can hold on to the back of Puntz and challenge in the closing stages. JMX, meanwhile, currently running third place. Of course, he is yet to come back into the pits. Still running on fairly worn mediums. In he comes. Spud running it wide again. That should be clear of a penalty on the super softs. He's only 9.6 off the lead. And matching the fastest lap of the race there on a 1:12.8. So we'll see whether or not Spud can make any inroads on the race leaders. 9 seconds in a little under a dozen laps is quite the ask, especially when both of the cars ahead are also on quick tyres. Neither of them on the mediums. Spud will be ruining that loss of time that we saw during his soft tyre stint, in which he ended up caught behind Lurox for a little while, and of course then had to serve a penalty and let him back through. But Spud definitely has the hammer down. We're about to see the fastest lap of the race on the board for Spud. Through Rindt he goes. A little bit wide of the apex by the looks of it, but keeps it within the boundaries of the track. A 1:12.461 for Spud. He's going to keep pushing and pushing. There's Justin 9:30, a 1:12.806 last time by, so he's getting quicker and quicker. However, he is not gaining on Punz. Punz is seemingly driving away a little bit. Gap is out to 1.5, 1.6 even. And Justin with less overtake. And look at Punz. He hasn't touched it at any point in the race. Been a masterful drive to this point for Punz in car 47. He has put wheels wrong. They have been the most minor of degrees. Weizsäcker does look to be driving around on the pause button for the sake of points out there. Spud again setting fastest laps. Ah yes, apologies Jarman, I forgot about that. Yes, that is a rule of the series that the leader can't touch the overtake. It's a nice little added bit of dilemma, of course. In this instance, it tells you everything you need to know about Punz's race to this point. At no point since the start of the race has he been eligible to use the overtake button. Quite the drive thus far from the Mash Spuds Racing competitor. Less than 10 laps to go. Spud having to deal with some traffic, some of it ghosted, some of it not. Mix there peels off to the pit wall, allowing Spud through. Spud still lost some time on that lap though, and that could be critical. He hasn't got many laps to play with. At this stage it's going to take, mathematically speaking, it's going to take errors, I think, from the top two for Spud to make any further ground. He may get within 3 or 4 seconds of Justin on current pace, but the defending champ may have to accept P3 here. But Rome wasn't built in a day, and a season was never won in the first 2 races. Lots of championship left for Spud. And it has not been an unpromising start to the season. But it does look like during the off-season, the regulars of the Track Stars competitions have been practicing and working hard to challenge this man. The Porsche Cup, Trackstars Touring Cars and Formula Trackstars Champion of 2020. The rest of the pecking order was never going to take that list of accolades lying down, of course. JMX just across the line a couple of laps ago for the fastest lap of the race, a 1:12.280. Very impressive pace from the pit lane esports driver then in 6th place. He's a little way off the top 5. Farrell PS in 5th. So I don't think much in the way of further ground can be made up by JMX, although he is closing at quite a rate. 1:12s for him and mid-13s for Farrell, so maybe by the end of the race we could see the pit lane esports driver challenging for that top 5. Kappa AT just setting his personal best of the day, a 1:12.536, and N-Spud has just crossed the line with a 1:11.896. So he is pulling out all the stops in an effort to at least be within range of Justin. Justin is now about 2 seconds off the leader. This man Punts, who's just systematically making up ground, or gaining a cushion, I should say, over Justin 930. Just going to be careful of catching the tyre on the grass there. So easy to just take a little bit too much of that curb on the little straight between the two lefts. Past that mighty literal Red Bull statue that sits adjacent to the circuit. Of course, Red Bull Ring, best known for its car racing activities, but they also have quite an amount of land and forestry to their name here at this facility, and they use that for dirt bike racing, for enduro style dirt bike racing. Some great videos of that on YouTube if you're that way inclined, on the various Red Bull channels. Of motorsport events far and wide, Red Bull. If you have a spare afternoon, do check out the Erzberg Rodeo bike racing event. That's surely one of the most captivating events of the lot. Great stat, as always, from Jarman Dalitz in the comments. This could be Puntz's first win, to go with 6 poles and 4 fastest laps. He's often looked so promising. Today at the Red Bull Ring, to this point, he has shown that promise, delivered on that promise. Robo Sport commenting he's quite surprised by Little Blacko being down in 9th place. Of course, the EBM driver for the day is a Robo Sport driver on a regular basis, so Robbo carefully watching his progress. Justin 3 seconds back from Puntz now, and the gap is coming down between he and Spud. 5 seconds at present. Spud may be starting to ask too much of these super softs, however. He is down into the 1:12.4s for the last 2 laps. They have just scrubbed the best of the life off the tyres. Yet another 1:12.4. He's impressively metronomic, I'll give him that. On to lap 43 of the race. 4 to go. 4.5 seconds to make up. He'll be close behind. Of course, Justin is on slightly aged softs as well, so that's a consideration. He will be starting to find that the grip isn't there as much as it was at the beginning of the stint. But Justin, for now, of course, is in the stronger position. Always better to be defending from the front rather than challenging from the back. Still edge of the seat viewing for the It's Racing esports fans and for It's Racing himself, of course. Justin, the sole proponent of It's Racing esports the majority of this race after super sub Diswood found himself in strife. Just had a car come into pit lane there. Who was that? It was Blacko. So Blacko in, not seeing any damage on the car, so I'm not certain why he's into the pits late on. But onto pit road he is. And onto the super softs he is as well. Whether or not he ever used the super softs. In fact, no, I think what's happening here is he's going for the fastest lap. Maybe he has seen the comment from RoboSport and has gone, right, I may be far back, but I can set a quick lap. I wouldn't mind betting that's what's going on here. Although he's doing that at the expense of 9th place, if he has done it. That is what's happening. So I'm not sure if this is a strategic faux pas or not. Penultimate lap of the race begins for our leader, Punts. The Mash Spuds Racing Dallara. He's got over 5 seconds of buffer to Justin. Less than 3 seconds between Justin and Spud. 5th place could yet change hands though. Look at this, JMX pressuring Farrell. Farrell diving into his overtake for the first time. JMX conversely has almost none. Oh, and a big moment there at Lauder Curve. Apologies for cutting away at an inopportune moment there. Slip of the finger on the keyboard. JMX to the inside line as they head towards Remus. Interesting battle here. Oh, and a sideways moment for JMX, and that's caught Farrell out in a major way. Look back to that one. JMX to the inside. Then he gets it crossed up. Nowhere to go for the Indonesian driver, Farrell PS. Will JMX hold on to 5th place? JMX is undamaged. Of course, he was the one closing in on Farrell to begin with. So, potentially, he has taken that 5th place, albeit in dramatic fashion. Last lap, and Punts is there. 6.4 clear of the lead, and Justin still 2.5 seconds ahead of Spud. Looks as though the It's Racing esports driver has done enough to claim 2nd place here. And as Jarman succinctly puts it in the comments, he has spoiled plans for Mass Spuds Racing 1-2. It's been a long time coming for Punts, one of the fastest drivers in a Super Formula car, yet to claim a win in Formula Track Stars, but that's changed at the Austrian Grand Prix. He takes the win. A commanding drive from the 47 car. Punts for Matt Spuds Racing takes the win. Justin 930 in 2nd, followed by N-Spud P666 in 3rd place. Lurox 22 is going to claim 4th place. Fairly uncontested. A solid drive from the number 22 man, and JMX will take 5th position. Almost lost it all there in the barriers. Just about kept it on the tarmac. And Farrell had to concede 5th and claims 6th in the late going. Good run for Pointed, finishing 7th for Pit Lane Esports. A strong day for Pit Lane Esports all round there. Papa AT will be the last man across the line in 8th place. In fact, I'm not quite sure he's going to get time to get across the line. It's going to be very close. Last man on the lead lap will just about see the flag and claim 8th place. And that is then the end of our racing for today. We'll take a look at the full order in just a second. But a great victory, 4 points for the Mash Spuds Racing outfit. Congratulations to Punts, it's been a long time coming for him. He finishes at the head of the order, ahead of Justin 930, N-Spud, Lurox 22 and JMX, the top 5. Farrell PS claiming 6th ahead of DJSX Pointed and Papa AT. 9th place goes to Mix, a lap down on the leader. Blacko in 10th place, not able to get that fastest lap if that's what he was aiming for. It was Spud's 1:11.896, of course, which eventually was the fastest lap of the race. Huzo 16 finishing in 11th ahead of Chef Todd. And SDRT Wiseacre rounding out the order 3 laps down, having handed over to his AI co-pilot there for a few laps. So that is the end of the racing. Of course, Dis Wood, we should also mention him, was the 14th starter, but unfortunately only about a half dozen laps into the race, his effort came to a close. Great racing all round then. Certainly one of those Formula Trackstars races where strategy was the name of the game. There was on-track dicing, of course, wheel-to-wheel dicing. However, most of this was done on the pit walls. Most of this was decided on strategy, and it was the Mash Spuds Racing crew who had the handle on strategy today. First win in the formulas for Punts, as Spud rightly says in the comments section. Great result then for the Mash Spuds Racing crew. Great result for Justin 930. No backup for him, but ran well and held on to that 2nd place. With the racing over, we will bid the stream a fond farewell in just a moment. Just for your information, the Formula Trackstars season will now take a brief hiatus before the United States Grand Prix at Laguna Seca on May 2nd. So a little bit of a wait until we next see the Formula Trackstars guys out on circuit. Next week, though, we have the touring cars back out at Autopolis. So the Autopolis International Racing Course will be hosting 3 17-lap races for the Trackstars touring cars here live next week on the Trackstars Racing Series YouTube channel. Of course, the TS2 series will also be out in force as always. So stay tuned, watch more racing with us next weekend. It's going to be just as great as ever with the touring cars, always high-octane action with them. And if you haven't already subscribed to the channel, do so. Lots of excellent GT Sport racing across disciplines here on the Trackstars Racing Series YouTube channel. Thank you so much for tuning in. I've been Adam Weller. As always, delighted to bring you the racing action from here in the UK in the early morning while most of these guys race in the evening. It's been fun. We'll see you next week for the touring cars. We'll see you in 2 months for the Formula Trackstars. But it's goodbye for now.